Just letting you know I'm live now, pal. Hello everyone. Today we are going to be making some lotion. I haven't done this for a little while, and I've been playing around with some recipes. So now this is for me. I'm obviously in my kitchen. Don't look at the dishes behind me. The dishwasher is still going. But anyway, I will put the full recipe in a PDF along with some changes that you can make on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon member, later on today, I'll put the recipe in the PDF and I'll have sort of alternatives so that we can change the recipe a little bit. Now, I did promise that I'll get into some videos. As you can tell, and we'll move the video up so you can see me for a minute. As you can tell, I do have the flu, and I'm sorry that I have the flu, but this is not to be sold. I don't sell skincare anymore. This is literally just for myself. So, happy to see you. Thank you so much, Marie. Happy to see everyone and hear from everyone on here. I know that you basically want this channel to be more skincare, so we're going to kind of come up with those videos. You'll see a few pottery, but if you want pottery, go over to my other channel and we'll see how that one grows as we go along. So I'm in my little kitchen, my little humble kitchen at the moment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do this recipe. So this is for my skin. So for my face, I have really dry skin, so that's why I'm making it. Hello, Tamara from Florida. I hope you're doing super well, my love. So it is cold today in Melbourne, but even in summer, my face is very, very dry. And I think the older you get, you get a really dry face. So that's why we're going to make things. Take good care of myself. Yeah, I am. I've taken a bit of time off, as lots of you will have noticed, because, of course, being unwell. So something's got to give everyone. But today we're going to do a little video. I do need some lotion for myself. Now this one I'm making without preservative. Now we do have water, so I do suggest you use preservative, but I'm going to make a really small batch. I'm going to use this in 2 days. So if you make something without preservative, you can only make it for yourself, and then basically just store it in the fridge. It will last for, maybe 5 days. But if you left it on the bench, or just in the jar, it honestly will go moldy in 2 days. So you do need to refrigerate it if you're making anything with water, or of course use the preservative that I've always suggested. I know my brain's gone blank. Liquid Germal Plus is really good. It's easy to use, and the same as Optifin Plus. Those two are so easy to use. So if you're new at making lotions, use something that's a little bit new. But for starters, now what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you everything. So we're going to move the camera. So I just have my trusty, it's just a frying pan, nothing exciting. And then of course we need some heat-proof jars, which I've got here. These are heat-proof ones. And then I do have this little heat-proof one as well. So we need one. So if you've never made lotion, basically you want one jar to be the water portions and one jar to be the oil portion. Now, I've put the water portion in this just so that I can show you once we go through this process, because it does take a while. Now, inside, so what we're going to do here is this is going to be the oil portion. Then we're going to tip the water portion into the oil portion. It makes it easier to get the oil portion out. And you'll see lots of people saying you should do one rather than the other. Honestly, it doesn't matter because you're going to mix it with a stick blender. So it's not that important. But anyway, let's go through it and let's start making it, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to do it. So let's just pop down my, actually maybe we'll use this side because this is, well, maybe we'll use this side. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let me just whizzle you over so you can see anyway here where I've got it. And let me just try and move this. There you go. Hopefully a little bit. You can see my dishes that I've just washed in the sink. So sorry about that. But anyway, let's go. So we're just going to pour some water. This is not distilled water because this is not the mix. This is literally just making like a little water bath in it. So we're going to turn it on. We're turning this on to really low. Don't turn it on high. If you turn this on high, you can actually burn or scorch anything. Now, if you're using glass, you want the glass to go in now. Don't put the glass in when this water is hot because it can crack the glass. So inside this glass is where I'm going to be putting my oil portion. But we're going to measure that up first just to show everyone. Now, inside here, I do have a water portion, and I've already mixed in the water into this bit in here. So we're only going to make 100 grams. We're going to make a tiny one today. And I do just have a little scale here. So we're just going to move the scale. I made a few different recipes. That's not the one we're using because I thought that one's not going to be great for me. So now, like I said, inside here, I've already got my water portion. So I've got 80 grams of water in here. But to add to my water portion, which I've already measured, inside here, I have some glycerin. Now, if you have dry skin, glycerin is a humectant, and it's going to basically put some moisture into your skin and keep it looking gorgeous. So we're going to add that to the water. So let's just add this in. Now, you can add up to 5%. I'm just adding 3%. So, and if you want to know percentages, this is a 100-gram recipe. So obviously, every bit I tell you is also the percentage. So if I say 80 grams of water, it's also 80%. And each recipe should equal 100%. So hopefully that makes sense. So we've got that in here. We've already got the stove on low. Let me just double check. It's really low. I'll turn it up a tiny bit. But, you know, like it's on really very, very low because you don't want to force this. And the whole idea here is just heating everything up so it's similar temperature. And remember that the oil is going to get hotter than the water portion. So now with the oil portion that we're going to do, let me just get my little container down here and I will measure it, which is just kind of here off screen because I'm working in a tiny area. Now, if you're measuring grams for one, you need to have grams for everything. So don't go measuring, you know, like your rosehip oil that I'm going to use. Don't go measuring that up in mils and the other in grams because there will be a difference. You know, it's better just to do one. So anyway, like I said, water portion, oil portion, okay? We've got two different ones. So for the oil portion in here, I'm firstly going to add 3 grams of rosehip. Rosehip is amazing for dry skin and for the face. It has lots of benefits, but of course, you can just look those up on the internet. So this is the oil portion in here. So I'm going to pour that in here. And do remember, if you go over like, you know, half a gram or something, it's not really going to change it much because sometimes you get stuff stuck in there. So make sure you try and get everything out. So the next one we're going to do is I want to put 5 grams of fractionated coconut oil. So I'm just going to measure that. So I've got that in here. And I actually get this from Craft 360. That's the company I bought it from. And as I said, this is for myself. This is not to sell. If you were selling this, you need to wear gloves. You need to probably do other steps compared to making it for yourself. But I know lots of you that watch me just make it for yourself. You don't sell it. If you're selling it, just wear the gloves. Just make sure you've done everything, you know, making sure that the area is clean and so on. So now the last thing we're going to do in our oil section, so like I said, we've got 5 grams of fractionated coconut oil, 3 grams of rosehip oil, and we've got 3 grams of, you know, your emulsifier or cetyl alcohol. There's so many you can use, BTMS 50. Just check them out. So let's just pop this in here. And hopefully I'm showing you so it's really easy. So let's just take this out for a sec. So this is literally the oil portion. That's all. So if it's for your face, you don't want to have shea butters and things like that in. It's just too strong for your face. So like I said, make sure that we're, you know, doing the right thing with that. And then on the water portion, like I said, we've got 80 grams of water. We have 3 grams of glycerin. Oh, and I did forget one thing. We want to add 5 more grams into the water portion. So we actually need to get some aloe vera juice. So I'm going to get my daughter Pearl to grab it for me. Pearl. She's not listening now, so I'm going to have to run and get it myself. Hold on me 1 second. Oh, I had to run away. Anyway, I'm fast. So we're going to add this in, your aloe juice. If you don't want to add aloe juice, just use all water. So that would mean we've got a really high portion of water here because I don't want this mixture to be super, what's the word? You know, thick. We want it to be thin. It's going on the face. So anyway, that's what we're doing for now. So we'll just put the lid on. And I am going to put this video over on Patreon, my friends, later. So this is the water portion, remember? So we'll pop it into the silver one, which is our water. And then I'm going to, we will just move these aside. So now basically what we want to see is we want to see this melt down. So now that we've done that and I've been blubbering on a bit, we can turn it up. So you basically just want to simmer it on here. There are other devices you can buy. You can buy like little electric stoves, which I used to have when I did a lot of videos in my other shop. And we're just literally going to mix this. But you don't really need to. You could just leave it. But and then basically you want them to be within like 5 or 10 degrees of each other. And like I said, the oil's going to get hotter before the water's going to get hotter. So what I usually do is let the water portion melt, the oil portion melt down. Then I'll take that off the stove and we'll pop this down here and then I'll show you that portion. And once that has done that, then I'll leave the water and leave the stove on a bit while we're just talking and organising the oil. Because just those few minutes will help the oil temperature go down and the water go up. Of course, I do suggest that you use, you know, a temperature gauge like an infrared or something. But I'm not going to do that because, like I said, this is for me. So that's the difference. When you get used to making things like this, you do get really good at it. And like I said, this is not for sale. If I was going to sell it, you'd use all the temperature gauges. You'd be recording everything. I'd have an apron on. You know, I'd have gloves on and everything else. So please, whoever is watching this video, don't tell me off, no gloves. You know, I'm kind of expecting that. But it's for myself. And like I said, I'm not using preservative because I want to add this, because I want to use this in the next 2 days. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. You could also use this recipe to, you know, like for a night cream, just thicken it up a bit. And the way you thicken it up is you put less water and more like more sort of cetyl alcohol or more BTMS 50 or more emulsifier, because that will thicken it up. So like I said, we've only used 3 grams, so 3% of a thickener, but you could use 5-6%. I usually never really go over 5. It's very rare for me to ever go over 5. So, and where it is melting down, so it won't be too long. Now, I'm going to just get a little chopping board. So, for me, I use this, and that way we can put our oil on this. You also need to make sure you have a stick blender. So, I have a stick blender to the side, a little KitchenAid one. You can use the cheapest one from Kmart. When I first started making these kind of things, I only ever used really cheap Kmart, you know, like mixers and everything. I ended up having 2 mixers, which were the cheap Kmart ones, but they do break. But they're good just to start with. Doesn't matter. You don't need anything too super fancy. So now I'm not going to put any fragrance in this. If it's for the face, I do suggest you don't put fragrance. You can use a couple drops of, you know, lavender essential oil or something like that. But for me, I'm actually allergic to many, many things. So I'm not going to put that in. And I've even bought the hypoallergenic, you know, skincares from the shop. And my skin just itches and breaks and bleeds straight away. So that's why I just make my own now. So now it is totally melted down. So I'm going to show you. So now let's just move over here a little bit. So I've got my chopping board here. I'm going to just try and move it so that we can see a bit better. So I've got my chopping board here, which you can see. And you can see I can hold this. It's not super hot or anything. So if you look in here, it is all melted down. Let's just mix it so that I can just make sure Yep, so it's just like a little air bubble in there. So this is the oil portion. So you can see it's small now. Can you see on the edge how the oil has already here started to stick? Now that's why it's better to pour the water portion into the oil portion so that doesn't happen. So now I'm going to take my water portion out, which is in here. Straight away, you're going to see the magic happen. Anyone that makes lotion knows it's my favorite part of the process. Let's just pour this hot water in here. And that's it. And of course, it needs this to mix together. So we're going to blend it together. And literally, this is all you want to do. Now, if you can see little beads of oil on top, which I can see, it just means it's not blended properly. And that's the easiest way for you to tell. Now, doing one like this takes time. So you can see I've just done a few little bursts on the KitchenAid, and that's literally all you want to do. You don't need to do anything too fancy besides that. And then you could walk away, come back 10 minutes later and see the lotion. Now, because this is a huge amount of water compared to fats and oils, it's going to take a lot longer to actually mix. But you can see it's only 100 grams. It's not, you know, a super big amount. So I do suggest that you don't keep, like, you know, if you take it out and you keep doing this, what actually happens is it can leave like a frothing onto the lotion, which makes the lotion like very bubbly. So to stop that and make sure it's really smooth, just keep the whole nozzle into the solution that you can see here, not out like that or not like that. Make sure it's totally in, and then just zap it a little bit. And also, if you have a cold like me, you don't want to be making lotion. Especially if you're going to sell it. But if it's for yourself, it doesn't really matter. So now we have done that, and you can see it's very watery. This will take, honestly, about an hour. Probably sometimes even more before this will come to trace. Now, I don't know whether you can see the little bubbly bits here. That means they're starting to mix, and they're starting to create a lotion. So obviously a KitchenAid is going to be faster than, you know, a cheaper one. So if you're using a cheaper one, it might just take longer, and then you can just get your spoon. So now we have pretty much mixed this pretty all right. And literally you can come back every few hours and literally just do that. I'm just going to pull the KitchenAid out of that. We will turn the stove off. And, you know, like I said, literally this is all you've done. So we've already blended it. And you can see it's still liquid. It's very watery because, like I said, it needs to cool down. And lotions take 24 hours before they are at their desired consistency. So don't think, oh, this is too thin, I'm going to quickly go and put some more emulsifying wax and heat it up and chuck it in. If you do that, it will be too thick. And you can tell that I'm coughing away. I'm obviously moving away, but like I said, this is for me, not for anyone else. So if you're making lotion, just make sure that you're not ill, you know, especially like I said, for yourself, it doesn't matter. You can do what you like. But if you're making this for somebody else, it's really important that you're not ill. Because obviously, you know, germs are in the air. So, yeah. And now the only thing that I'm going to do, once this cools down, and it's quite warm still, once it cools down, I'm going to add some vitamin E. And this is the vitamin E I have. I have some left over, but you can buy this from Craft 360. They're the one I definitely suggest. They're the cheapest in Australia, you know, for their products, and the quality is very good. So, well, it's excellent. I've used them for quite some time, and they are actually in Eltham. So you can order online and you can go and collect if you're in Melbourne, so you don't have to pay, you know, so then you don't have to go and pay all the shipping, even though the shipping's not very expensive. But if you're in Melbourne and you can go and collect, I say order a big amount and then go and get it. But, you know, if you're overseas or you just can't get there, you can order anywhere you like. You know, you only need very small portions. And you can see, like, even vitamin E or the rosehip. Now, I'm only using 3%. So using 3% means, you know, it's cheap. You know, like you're probably using, I don't know, 30 cents or something. It's just at the start, it's expensive to buy the bottles. But once you have them, you can just make your own lotions. And I know lots of people have started making their own lotions, their own body butters. And like I said, it really is not that hard to make it. So if you, like I said, if you want this thicker, my suggestion is, you know, you could bring it back to having, say, 70 grams of water, or maybe 75 grams of water and 8 grams of emulsifying wax. So yeah, oh, and we're adding 1% of the vitamin E later. And so like I said, it looks very thin, I know, and even once it starts to thicken up, it will still look thin, but by tomorrow it will thicken up, and that's kind of what you need. So as long as, if you can see the water separating from the oil, then you know, okay, I need to keep blending this. If you see that, just blend it. So hopefully, I hope this has helped, this video. If you just want to make a simple lotion, and honestly, you can make a lotion that could be 70% water, 30% oil, or 30% butters. That's it. You could just have literally 2 ingredients, well, plus your emulsifying wax. So if you want to do a really, really simple one, I say 75% water, maybe 5% emulsifying wax if you wanted a body butter, and the rest some sort of oil or butter. So, you know, that's as simple as you can get. It really is not rocket science making it, but we all panic thinking we need to buy from a big corporation, but we actually don't need to do that at all. So anyway, I hope this has helped, my friends. And I'm going to keep mixing this. I'm going to go in a minute before I have another coughing fit. And yeah, but I hope you enjoy. My choice of emulsifying wax is definitely BTMS 50. It's very nice. It's more silky to use as a lotion or a body butter than straight emulsifying wax, but you can use either. It doesn't really matter. But on the face, definitely BTMS 50 is the one that I would definitely choose. And so I will go off camera. I will keep mixing this, making sure it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, if you're going to sell it, you definitely need a preservative, but this is for me and I'm going to use this in a few days, so I don't need that. Anyway, have a great day, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye.